In the vast, sprawling, and ancient Imperium, humanity has scattered across 1,000,000 worlds. Between these worlds lies an abyss of unimaginable distance, a cold and empty void that should make travel impossible. And yet, ships do travel, commerce flows, armies move, noble houses visit one another, and pilgrims reach their sacred destinations. This movement is as vital and as unseen as the circulation of blood in a sleeping body. It simply happens. But it does not happen on its own. It happens because of the Spacing Guild. The Guild is a power unto itself, a quiet, pervasive monopoly that holds the single key to interstellar travel. The Guild is built upon a central mystery. How do they navigate the stars without the aid of thinking machines, which are forbidden? How do their massive ships, the Highliners, cross galactic distances in an instant when conventional physics says it should take lifetimes? The answer lies in a strange intersection of mathematics, biology, and the most valuable substance in the universe. This substance is Melange, the spice of the desert planet Arrakis. Through the spice, the Guild has unlocked a new kind of human potential, a way of seeing the future. This ability, called Prescience, is what allows them to plot a safe course through the folded fabric of space. Because they alone can provide this service, the Guild holds leverage over every other power. They stand apart from the great houses of the Landsraad, apart from the Padishah Emperor himself, and apart from the Bene Gesserit sisterhood. They are neutral, transactional, and indispensable. To be denied Guild passage is to be isolated, marooned on one's own planet, cut off from the flow of wealth and power. The Guild, therefore, is not just a transport service. It is the force that defines the boundaries and the pace of human civilization. They are the unseen architects of space, the silent partners in every transaction, the ferrymen on the river of infinity. In our journey tonight, we will explore this enigmatic organization. We will drift through its history, from the ancient prohibitions that created its necessity to the strange and delicate science of its navigators. We will examine its relationship with the other great powers and how it balances the flow of spice and coins. There are no great battles or loud commands in the story of the Guild. There is only the quiet, steady, and hypnotic hum of an engine that never stops, a system that works, and a power that endures. Let us begin this gentle exploration together and understand the quiet masters of the void. Chapter 1. Why interstellar travel needs navigators. The void between stars is not merely empty, it is treacherous, a place where the laws of cause and effect are stretched to their limits. A ship moving at conventional relativistic speeds, even the fastest imaginable, would take many thousands of years to cross from one solar system to another. This is the first problem of Empire: distance. The solution, discovered ages ago, is the Holtzman effect, a principle that allows a ship to fold space, essentially creating a shortcut, a tunnel, through the higher dimensions of reality. A ship enters this fold space at one point and emerges at another, almost instantaneously. But this solution presents a second, far more dangerous problem. The universe is not static. While in fold space, the ship is blind. It has no conventional senses. It cannot see what lies ahead. And the universe is full of hazards, both known and unknown. A star, a planet, a rogue asteroid, or even another ship occupying the same sliver of reality at the same moment of emergence would mean instant and total annihilation. The ship and everything in it would simply cease to exist, obliterated by a catastrophic collision with reality. This is not a risk that can be calculated in the ordinary way. The variables are too many. The timeline's too vast. The number of possible futures, possible dangers, approaches infinity. This is where a simple computer, even a very powerful one, fails. A machine can only calculate based on the information it has. It can plot a course from point A to point B based on known stellar charts, but it cannot know the unknown. It cannot account for the rogue variable, the gravitational anomaly that has shifted a planet's orbit by a few centimeters, or the sudden solar flare that will erupt precisely where the ship plans to emerge. A computer can calculate probabilities, but it cannot see the future. It cannot gaze into the branching pathways of time and find the one single safe route. This is why the Guild needs navigators. A navigator is not a pilot in the traditional sense. They do not steer the ship. They are seers. They are human minds, augmented by a unique substance that have been trained to do what no machine can, to look ahead into the ocean of probability and find the safe channel. They are living, breathing, conscious solutions to an impossible mathematical problem. Without them, every journey into fold space would be a suicidal gamble, a game of chance with infinite stakes. The Navigator transforms that gamble into a certainty, and in doing so, they make interstellar civilization possible. The need for navigators is the fundamental truth upon which the Guild is built, the secret that protects its monopoly. Now, we will explore the ancient history that made this strange human solution the only one permitted. Chapter 2. The Aftermath of the Butlerian Jihad. Our journey now takes us deep into the past, into the formative, fiery crucible of the modern Imperium. To understand the Guild, we must first understand the great revolution that shaped it, the Butlerian Jihad. This was not a war against a foreign empire or a rival noble house. It was a holy war, a crusade against machines. Specifically, it was a war against thinking machines, computers and artificial intelligences that had grown so sophisticated they had begun to rule and then to enslave their human creators. The details of the war are shrouded in millennia of myth and religious dogma, but its outcome was absolute and defines all life in the universe we are exploring. The central command of the Butlerian Jihad was enshrined in the Orange Catholic Bible. Thou shalt not make a machine in the likeness of a human mind. This was not merely a suggestion. It became the bedrock of law, culture, and morality. The Jihad was a bloody, galaxy-spanning conflict that lasted for generations, but in the end, humanity won. Every thinking machine was hunted down and destroyed. The very concept of artificial intelligence became a profound taboo, a spiritual contamination. This event seared into the human psyche, a deep and abiding fear of letting a machine make a decision, a judgment, or a calculation that a human mind could make. This great prohibition created a void. How could a complex interstellar society function without the computational power that had once run it? The answer was that humanity itself had to change. Human beings had to be trained to fill the roles the machines had left behind. This led to the rise of specialized human schools, the human computers. The most famous of these are the mentats, individuals trained from childhood for total recall, logical deduction, and probabilistic analysis. The Bene Gesserit sisterhood, pronounced Bene Gesserit, trained their bodies and minds to achieve superhuman control and perception. And, in the void left by the destruction of navigational computers, another group began to form. This group, the ancestors of the Spacing Guild, faced the central problem of space travel. With navigational computers forbidden, how could anyone safely plot a course through fold space? The answer could not come from a machine. It had to come from a human. But as we have seen, a normal human mind, even a mentat mind, is not capable of processing the infinite variables of fold space. A new kind of human mind was needed, one that could transcend normal perception. This necessity, born from the ashes of the Butlerian Jihad, created the market for the Guild's unique service, and it set them on the path to finding the one substance that could unlock that transcendent potential. The Butlerian Jihad, therefore, did not just destroy the old world. It created the very conditions necessary for the Spacing Guild to be born. It mandated a human solution to a superhuman problem, a solution that would be found on a desolate desert world. Chapter 3. Melange, the spice that bends probability. We now turn our attention to the single most important substance in the universe, the pivot upon which all power turns. It is known by many names: the spice, the geriatric spice, the sacred drug. Its formal name is melange, pronounced melange. All melange in the entire universe comes from one place and one place only: the deep deserts of the planet Arrakis, a harsh, dry world, also known as Dune. Without this substance, the Spacing Guild and the entire Imperium it connects could not exist. What is melange? At its most basic, it is an awareness spectrum narcotic. It is deeply and irrevocably addictive. Once a person begins to take the spice, they must continue to take it for the rest of their lives. If they stop, they die. But this terrible price is paid for an incredible benefit. The spice extends life. Those who can afford a diet rich in melange live for hundreds of years, their health and vitality preserved far beyond the normal human span. This geriatric property alone makes it the most sought-after commodity among the wealthy and powerful. But life extension is only its most common use. In higher, more concentrated doses, the spice does something far more profound. It unlocks the mind. Melange, particularly for those with the right genetic makeup and training, opens the doors of perception. It grants a limited form of prescience, or foresight. This is not a crystal clear vision of the future. Rather, the spice allows the user to see the pathways of the future, the branching possibilities of cause and effect. They see the currents of time, the places where choices lead to danger, and the places where they lead to safety. For most users, this is a subtle, intuitive sense, a heightened awareness that guides their decisions. But for a select few, this ability can be cultivated into something much more powerful. This is the secret the nascent Spacing Guild discovered. They found that by exposing certain individuals to massive, overwhelming quantities of melange, they could trigger a profound mutation. These individuals could be trained to harness the prescient visions granted by the spice, to look deep into the tangled web of the future and find the one, single, safe path for a ship to travel through fold space. The spice was the key. It was the only substance that could turn a human mind into a navigator. The Guild's entire monopoly on travel, their immense power, and their political neutrality are all built upon this one biological and chemical fact. The spice is, therefore, the Guild's most vital resource and its greatest vulnerability. Their entire existence depends on its uninterrupted supply. This fragile dependency chains them, and all of civilization, to the hostile desert planet of Arrakis. Chapter 4. From Spice to Sight. The journey from a normal human being to a Guild navigator is a slow, profound, and irreversible transformation, fueled entirely by the spice. It is not enough to simply consume melange, as the wealthy do, in small amounts to prolong life. To achieve the sight required for navigation, the Guild must expose its potential navigators to the spice in its most concentrated and overwhelming form. This process is deliberate, dangerous, and shrouded in secrecy. It begins with the fundamental realization that the spice is not just a drug, but a tool for mutation. Sustained, high-level exposure to melange fundamentally rewrites human biology and, more importantly, human consciousness. The process is one of saturation. The Guild's trainees are immersed in an environment where the spice is not just eaten or drunk, but breathed. They live in sealed tanks filled with a dense orange gas, the very essence of concentrated melange. This gas permeates their bodies, staining their eyes a deep, uniform blue, known as the eyes of Ibad, a sign of total spice addiction. But this is only the external sign. The internal change is where the true transformation occurs. As the spice saturates their system, it begins to alter their perception of reality. At first, this is disorienting, a flood of disconnected images, feelings, and premonitions. This is the raw, untamed power of prescience. It is the mind beginning to break free from the linear flow of time, starting to perceive the echoes of the future in the present. The trainees, floating in their tanks, must learn to control this flood. They are trained by existing navigators to filter the noise, to focus their new awareness, and to find meaning in the chaotic visions. They learn to look for specific things, to trace the path of a hypothetical object, a ship, through the infinite possibilities of the future. This transformation of cognition is the core of the navigator's power. They are no longer just thinking, they are experiencing probability. They do not calculate the risk of a fold space jump, they feel it. They can perceive a bad outcome as a physical sensation, a darkness, or a blockage in the path ahead. A safe path, by contrast, feels open, clear, or harmonious. Their mind becomes a living map of the future, a map that is constantly shifting and updating. This sight is not infallible, but it is the only awareness capable of comprehending the dangers of fold space. This strange new sense, born from the spice, is what the guild cultivates. It is a journey from the simple, linear perception of a human to the complex, multi-dimensional awareness of a navigator, a journey that changes them forever, body and soul. Chapter 5, The Making of a Navigator. The path to becoming a navigator is one of complete dedication, a life given over to the guild and to the spice. The selection process is meticulous. The guild screens thousands of potential candidates, often from families with long histories of guild service, looking for specific genetic markers and latent psychic sensitivities. They seek minds that are pliable, mathematically inclined, and, crucially, stable enough to withstand the profound psychological pressures of spice saturation and prescience. Children are often preferred, as their minds and bodies are more easily mutated by the process. Once selected, the trainee begins a new life, a life that will be spent almost entirely in a state of sensory alteration. They are introduced to the spice slowly at first, building up their tolerance and their addiction. Then, they are placed into their training tanks. These tanks are carefully controlled environments, filled with a thick orange spice gas that they will breathe for the rest of their lives. The gas is their atmosphere, their nourishment, and the source of their power. Floating in this warm, soupy mist, their bodies begin to change. The training itself is less about learning facts and more about learning to perceive. Senior navigators, whose own tanks are often linked to the trainees, guide them in a form of mental apprenticeship. They teach the trainees how to quiet their old human senses, which are now useless and distracting. They teach them to focus their inner eye, the prescient sight granted by the spice. The trainees practice by navigating simulated fold space jumps, their minds scanning the hypothetical futures for dangers. They learn to identify the subtle taste of a safe passage versus the shadow of a fatal one. This process takes decades. Over these long years, the trainee's body undergoes a slow, continuous metamorphosis. The massive consumption of spice, combined with a life spent in zero gravity, causes their bodies to atrophy and change. Their limbs become thin and elongated, their heads swell, and their bodies become almost fish-like, adapted only for floating in the tank. They become something that is no longer strictly human. They are a new kind of organism, a creature evolved for a single purpose, to see the safe path. This physical transformation is the outward sign of their complete commitment, the price they pay for the ability to guide the stars. The graduation from trainee to apprentice, and then to a full navigator or steersman, is a quiet affair, marked not by ceremony, but by the first successful live fold space jump. It is the moment they prove their sight is reliable, and they are entrusted with the lives of thousands and the wealth of empires. Chapter 6, The Physiology and Mindscape of Navigators. To understand the guild, we must try to understand what it is like to be a navigator. Their existence is one of profound isolation and equally profound connection. The navigator lives within a large, metallic tank, floating weightless in a dense orange fog of pure melange. This tank is their world. It provides their life support, filters the spice gas they breathe, and feeds them intravenously. Their atrophied, mutated bodies are perfectly adapted to this environment and could not long survive outside it. They are, in a very real sense, prisoners of their own power. Inside the tank, their sensory world is completely different from ours. Their old senses, like sight and hearing, have long since faded, becoming dull and unimportant. Their primary sense is their prescient awareness. This is not a sixth sense. It has become their first sense. They experience the world as a constant, flowing river of time and probability. They are in a perpetual, low-grade probability trance. Even at rest, they are aware of the branching paths of the immediate future, the small consequences of every tiny event. This constant stream of information would overwhelm a normal mind, but to a navigator, it is simply the air they breathe. When it is time to navigate, they dive deeper into this trance. They focus their will, amplified by the spice, and project their awareness forward in time, following the intended path of their Highliner. They are not just looking for danger. They are scanning for everything. They look for gravitational tides, for the echoes of other ships, for the subtle quantum uncertainties that could cause a jump to go wrong. They are seeking the one, single, golden thread of reality, where their ship passes through fold space safely and emerges exactly where and when it is supposed to. This experience is described as both transcendent and terrifying. They are, for a time, godlike, holding thousands of possible futures in their mind. But they are also acutely aware of the consequences of failure. A mistake, a moment of lost focus, means the annihilation of their ship and everyone on it. This is the great cost of their power. They live for centuries, sustained by the spice, but they live in a state of constant, high-stakes vigilance. Their minds are repositories of secrets, pathways, and forgotten histories, but they are divorced from the simple, physical pleasures of a normal human life. They have traded their humanity for a form of divinity, and with it, an unbearable burden. This unique, isolated mindscape is the Guild's most precious and most carefully guarded asset. It is the living engine that drives their monopoly. Chapter 7. Fold space and the Holtzman problem. We have spoken of fold space as the method of interstellar travel, but let us now restfully consider what that truly means. The concept is born from the work of the ancient scientist Holtzman, whose discoveries in physics, known as the Holtzman effect, underpin much of the technology in the Imperium, from personal defensive shields to the glowing glow globes that light their halls. The most profound application of this effect, however, is the Holtzman drive, the engine that allows a Guild Highliner to bend the very fabric of the universe. Imagine reality, all of space and time, as a vast, flat sheet of silk. To travel from one side to the other, you would normally have to crawl across the entire surface. This is relativistic travel, and it takes eons. The Holtzman drive, however, allows a ship to fold that sheet of silk, to bring the destination point right next to the origin point. The ship then makes a tiny hop across the fold, and when the fabric of space is allowed to unfold, the ship finds itself at its destination, light years away. This journey through the fold, this higher dimensional tunnel, is what is known as traveling through fold space. The entire trip takes virtually no time at all. This is a near miraculous solution to the problem of distance, but it carries with it the great unresolved danger, which we can call the Holtzman problem. When a personal shield, another Holtzman device, is struck by a lasgun beam, the resulting interaction is a massive, unpredictable explosion, potentially nuclear in scale. A similar, but more complex principle applies to the fold space drive. A Holtzman engine moving through fold space is a mass of pure potential energy. If it should strike another solid object upon its emergence, a planet, a star, or even a small uncharted asteroid, the resulting energy release would be catastrophic, annihilating the ship and its target. Worse still, the universe is not empty. It is filled with gravity wells and other moving objects. Plotting a safe course is not just a matter of pointing the ship in the right direction. It is a matter of finding a path that avoids all possible intersections, all mass, all gravity, for the entire duration of its journey, and, most critically, at the precise microsecond of its emergence. This is the Holtzman, problem in its deadliest form. The path must be perfect, or it is fatal. This is not a problem that can be solved with maps. It is a problem of prediction. This is why the Guild's navigators are essential. A navigator's prescient sight is the only sensor that can see the future. They scan the infinite pathways and discard all of those that result in collision, until only one perfectly safe path remains. They do not solve the Holtzman problem with mathematics. They solve it with perception. Chapter 8. The Highliner. The vessel that performs this miraculous feat of folding space is the Guild Highliner. These are not sleek, agile ships designed for travel within a solar system. They are, quite simply, the largest moving objects ever created by humanity. A single Highliner is a vast, cylindrical metropolis, often described as being miles or even dozens of miles long. Its scale is almost impossible to comprehend. It is less a ship and more a container, a mobile cargo bay that carries within it an entire ecosystem of smaller vessels. Highliners do not, as a rule, ever land on planets. They are far too massive, their gravity fields too disruptive. They live permanently in the cold, dark void, usually parking in a stable orbit high above a planetary system. Other, smaller ships, the shuttles of the great houses, the freighters of CHOAM, the troop transports of the Emperor's Sardaukar, then fly up from the planet's surface and enter the Highliner's enormous cavernous cargo holds. The Highliner is, in essence, a cosmic ferry. It swallows entire fleets, seals its massive doors, and then, with the guidance of its navigator, it makes the instantaneous jump to another star system where it disgorges its cargo. The design philosophy of a Highliner is built around its one singular purpose. It is almost entirely engine and cargo bay. The Holtzman drive itself takes up a significant portion of the ship's mass, a massive humming generator that draws unimaginable power to bend reality. The rest of the ship is a void, a hollow space where other ships are clamped into place for the journey. The crew accommodations are minimal, as the journey itself is instantaneous. There is, however, one profoundly important exception: the Navigator's tank. The Navigator is the living heart of the Highliner. Their tank, a huge, shielded sphere filled with spice gas, is located deep within the ship, protected from all possible interference. From this sanctum, the Navigator communes with the ship's drive and with the universe, plotting the safe course. It is important to note that a Highliner, because it uses a Holtzman drive, must operate without shields during its jump. Shields, as we know, react violently with the Holtzman effect. This makes the Navigator's job even more critical. The ship is utterly defenseless and blind, and its only protection is the Navigator's perfect foresight. These colossal ships are the anchors of all interstellar commerce and power. They are the tangible expression of the Guild's monopoly, the shuttles that weave the fabric of the Imperium. Chapter 9. The Art of Laying a Safe Course. We now return to the mind of the Navigator, floating in the warm orange mist of their tank at the moment of their sacred duty. Laying a safe course is not a mechanical act. It is a high art, a form of active meditation and intense spiritual warfare against the chaos of probability. It begins when the Highliner is secure in orbit, its cargo of ships loaded, its great doors sealed. The Navigator is given the destination, a set of coordinates in a distant star system. The Navigator then sinks into the deepest level of the spice trance. In this state, their consciousness expands. They project their mind forward, unbound by the ship, to the target coordinates. They see the destination, not as it is now, but as it will be when they arrive. But they do not just see one future, they see all of them. They see an infinite branching web of possible pathways, a blizzard of potential realities. Most of these paths are dark. This one leads to emergence inside a forgotten comet's tail. That one results in a near miss with a rogue planet, close enough for its gravity to tear the ship apart. Another emerges into the path of a solar flare. The Navigator must sift through this terrifying storm of possibilities. Their mind acts as a living filter. They are searching for the clear path, the one timeline where absolutely nothing goes wrong. This requires unimaginable focus. They must hold the entire complex equation of the Highliner's mass, velocity, and energy signature in their mind, all while scanning millennia of stellar data and quantum fluctuations. They are, in effect, pruning the branches of the future. They discard the timelines that lead to disaster, one, by the billions, narrowing their focus. This process can take time. For a simple, well-known route, it might be almost instantaneous. For a new or dangerous route, through an uncharted or unstable region of space, the Navigator might need to remain in their trance for hours, or even days, meticulously scanning, checking, and rechecking. The Guild charges enormous sums for such complex journeys. When the Navigator finally finds the one true safe path, they lock it in. They commit their will to this one single future. They communicate this path to the Highliner's technicians, who then engage the Holtzman drive. The jump itself is a moment of pure faith. The ship blinks out of existence, and for a timeless instant, the Navigator's vision is the only thing that holds the ship to reality. Then it emerges, exactly as they foresaw. This is the art of laying a safe course. A living judgment, a human will, imposing order on the infinite chaos of the future. Chapter 10. Guild Hierarchy and the Steersmen Order. The Spacing Guild is not a monolith. It is a complex, ancient, and deeply hierarchical organization. Its structure is designed to protect its secrets and ensure the absolute reliability of its service. At the very top are the beings known as primary navigators, or steersmen. These are the most experienced, most powerful, and often the most mutated of their kind. They are the ones who guide the most important Highliners, the ships carrying royal personages, massive armies, or the most valuable CHOAM cargo. A steersman's word is law. Their perception of risk and reward dictates the flow of empires. Below the steersmen are the many ranks of standard navigators. These are the workhorses of the guild, each one a priceless asset, but varying in skill, experience, and authority. A junior navigator might be assigned to a regular, safe commercial route, repeating the same jump day after day. A more senior navigator might be tasked with more complex routes, or with the training of new apprentices. There are also navigators who specialize, not in steering, but in analysis, using their prescient abilities to advise the guild's own internal bank and political committees on long-term trends. The hierarchy extends down to the apprentices, the trainees still undergoing their slow metamorphosis, their minds just beginning to open to the spice trance. And below them are the vast numbers of guild agents, technicians, and representatives. These are the unmutated, normal humans who serve the guild. They are the ones who negotiate contracts on planets, who maintain the Highliners, who screen passengers, and who manage the complex logistics of scheduling and cargo. These agents are bound by oaths of secrecy, and while they may never see a navigator, they are fanatically loyal. They enjoy wealth, status, and the protection of the most powerful organization in the universe. This entire structure is bound together by quiet rituals and powerful oaths. The guild is a guild in the ancient sense of the word, a brotherhood, a secret society. Their primary oath is to the guild itself, above all other powers. They swear to protect the secret of navigation, to maintain their neutrality, and to never, ever use their power to strand a guild brother. This internal loyalty is absolute. This quiet internal culture, built on shared secrecy and mutual dependence, is what makes the guild so stable. This strict order, from the newest agent to the oldest steersman, ensures that the guild functions as a single, unified entity. It is this unity that allows them to present a common face to the Imperium and to wield their power so effectively. Chapter 11. Neutrality as Power. The single most important doctrine of the Spacing Guild, even more than secrecy, is its absolute political neutrality. The guild transports everyone. They will sell passage to House Atreides one day, and to their mortal enemies, House Harkonnen, the next. They will carry the Emperor's legions to a rebellious planet. And, for the right price, they will also transport the supplies for that planet's defense. The guild takes no sides in the political squabbles of the Landsraad, the great council of noble houses. Their only concern is the contract and the payment. This neutrality is not a moral failing. It is a calculated strategy for survival and for power. If the guild were to favor one house, they would immediately make enemies of all the others. The Imperium would fracture, and lesser powers would band together, dedicating all their resources to breaking the guild's monopoly, perhaps even revisiting the forbidden technologies of the Butlerian Jihad. By remaining perfectly, coldly transactional, the guild makes itself a utility, as neutral and as necessary as water or air. No one loves the guild, perhaps, but everyone needs the guild. This need is the source of their leverage. Because they are the only safe way to travel, the guild can dictate the terms. Their greatest power is not to move, but to refuse to move. If a great house, or even the Emperor himself, were to threaten the guild's monopoly or, critically, its supply of spice, the guild's response would be simple and devastating. They would issue an interdiction. They would simply stop. The Highliners would cease to arrive. That house's planet would be cut off, its trade routes severed, its off-world armies stranded. Within weeks, its economy would collapse. Within months, it would be vulnerable to any rival. This is a power greater than any army. The Guild never needs to fire a shot, they simply need to ground their ships. This power is used sparingly. The threat is almost always enough. It is this leverage that allows the Guild to demand exorbitant prices for their services and to operate with impunity, their Highliners and stations considered sacrosanct, neutral ground. Their neutrality is their shield and their sword, the central pillar of their political and economic dominance. This transactional nature is most clearly expressed in the Guild's financial dealings. Their power is not just over movement, but over the very money that pays for it. Chapter 12, the Guild Bank and the Price of Movement. The Spacing Guild is not just a transport company. It is, quite possibly, the wealthiest single entity in the Imperium. Its monopoly on travel allows it to charge prices that are, by any normal measure, astronomical. The cost of moving a single freighter of goods, let alone an entire legion of soldiers, is enough to strain the treasury of a great house. This constant massive flow of revenue is managed by one of the Guild's most secretive and powerful arms, the Guild Bank. The Guild Bank is the financial heart of the Imperium. Because the Guild deals with every house, every planet, and the great CHOAM Corporation, it has become the natural repository for much of the universe's wealth. Its stability is guaranteed, because the Guild itself is stable. Its neutrality is guaranteed, because the Guild is neutral. The great houses, and even the Emperor, often find it safer to store their vast reserves of spice and solari, the Imperial currency, in the Guild's unassailable vaults, rather than on their own worlds. But the Guild Bank does more than just store wealth. It uses it. The price of movement is not always paid in cash. The Guild understands leverage better than anyone. They will extend credit to a house that is temporarily poor, allowing them to move their troops or sell their goods. But this credit comes at a high price. The Guild will take liens against a house's assets, its planetary holdings, or even its share of CHOAM. The Guild is the ultimate creditor, and it is a patient one. It knows that eventually everyone must pay the ferryman. This financial power gives the Guild another, more subtle layer of control. They can use their lending policies to gently nudge political outcomes. They can offer favorable interest rates to a faction they see as stable, and crippling rates to one they see as volatile. They can collateralize entire trade routes, essentially owning the rights to all commerce between two star systems until a debt is repaid. They are the ultimate insiders, using their Navigators' limited foresight to analyze economic trends, making them the most successful investors in history. The Guild's wealth is, therefore, a closed loop. They charge fortunes for travel, which they then lend back to their clients, who must then travel more to earn the wealth to pay back the loans. This system makes the Guild Bank the true, quiet center of the Imperial economy. Chapter 13, CHOAM and the Arteries of Trade. If the Guild Bank is the heart of the Imperial economy, then the great trading conglomerate, CHOAM, is its circulatory system. CHOAM, which is usually said like CHOAM, stands for Combine Honete Ober Advancer Mercantiles. It is the Universal Development Corporation, the mega company that controls all or nearly all economic activity in the Imperium. Everything that is bought and sold on a large scale, from planetary governorships to bulk spice, from foodstuffs to technology, is managed, licensed, or taxed by CHOAM. The Emperor and the great houses of the Landsraad are the primary shareholders, and their CHOAM directorships are the main source of their fabulous wealth. But CHOAM has a partner, a silent, indispensable partner. CHOAM may control the goods, but the Spacing Guild controls the delivery of those goods. A CHOAM contract is worthless if the cargo cannot be moved from the planet where it is produced to the market where it will be sold. This creates a deep, symbiotic, and often tense relationship between the two organizations. The Guild is, in effect, the exclusive shipping contractor for the largest corporation in history. The Guild and CHOAM share in the revenues of this vast trade. The profits from interstellar commerce are so immense that they are carved up in complex, secret agreements. The Guild takes its massive fee for transport, of course, but the Guild Bank is also deeply invested in CHOAM itself, holding shares and financing major CHOAM ventures. The two entities are locked in a permanent, necessary embrace. CHOAM needs the Guild to move its products, and the Guild needs CHOAM's constant, massive flow of cargo to justify its existence and generate its wealth. This relationship shapes the markets of the Imperium. The Guild's shipping rates can determine the profitability of an entire industry. If the Guild raises the price of shipping timber from the planet Caladan, for example, the entire Imperial construction market feels the tremor. The Guild's Navigators, with their ability to analyze future economic trends, give the Guild a significant edge in its negotiations with CHOAM, allowing them to anticipate shortages, gluts, and political disruptions. They can quietly buy up shares in a sector before it becomes profitable, or sell off assets before a crisis hits. The Highliners are the arteries of CHOAM's trade. The Guild's control over these arteries gives them a quiet, constant, and unassailable voice in the boardrooms of the most powerful corporation in the universe. Chapter 14: Security, Secrecy, and Information Control. The Guild's power rests on its monopoly, and that monopoly rests on its secrets. The most important secret, of course, is the true nature of the Navigators. While the great and powerful know that the Guild uses spice-mutated humans to steer its ships, the specifics are the most closely guarded information in the universe. The Guild goes to extreme lengths to protect this secret. No outsider is ever permitted to see a full Navigator. The tanks are sealed, the communications filtered. To even attempt to spy on the Guild's inner workings is to risk a permanent, system-wide interdiction. This obsession with security extends to everything the Guild does. Guild Highliners are neutral territory, but they are also fortresses of information security. When passengers board a Highliner, they are effectively entering a black box. Their own ships are powered down, their communication systems are silenced, the Guild controls all information flow. This gives them another subtle monopoly. They are the only reliable and secure interstellar courier service. If the Emperor needs to send a vital secret message to a distant governor, he does not trust it to the unpredictable currents of the hypernet or to a fast courier ship that could be intercepted. He gives it to a Guild agent. The message is carried in the secure vaults of a Highliner, impervious to espionage, and delivered upon arrival. The Guild, of course, charges a premium for this service. And it is widely suspected, though never proven, that the Guild keeps copies of all but the most well-encrypted messages, filing them away in its vast secret archives. This control over information, combined with their control over movement, makes the Guild the ultimate screening authority. They screen all passengers. They know who is traveling where, with whom, and what cargo they are carrying. They are the eyes and ears of the Imperium, compiling a database of movement and commerce that is more complete than any possessed by the Emperor's own intelligence services. They do not often act on this information directly, as that would violate their neutrality, but they use it to assess risk, to set insurance rates, to guide their bank's investments, and to ensure that no power, not even the Emperor, can ever move against them without the Guild knowing about it long before it happens. This web of secrecy and information control is the Guild's armor. It protects their monopoly and allows them to operate from a position of near-perfect knowledge. Chapter 15: Arrakis as the Galactic Fulcrum. We now come to the center of the Guild's universe, the one place that inspires in them a quiet, abiding terror. This place is the desert planet Arrakis, also known as Dune. It is a dry, sun-scorched, and lethally hostile world, populated by giant sandworms and the secretive Fremen people. By all rights, it should be an ignored backwater. But it is the single most important planet in the Imperium for one reason alone. It is the only source of the spice Melange. For the Spacing Guild, Arrakis is the galactic fulcrum. It is the pivot upon which their entire existence balances. Without the spice, they have no navigators. Without navigators, they cannot steer their Highliners. Without Highliners, they have no monopoly, no bank, no power, no wealth. Their entire, vast, interstellar enterprise is chained to this one inhospitable ball of sand. This dependency is the Guild's single overriding vulnerability, and it shapes all of their long-term strategic thinking. The Guild watches Arrakis with an obsessive, paranoid focus. They monitor its political situation, the endless struggles between the great houses who are granted the fief of Arrakis and tasked with harvesting the spice. They monitor the ecological dependencies of the spice cycle, which is itself a mystery. The spice is known to be a byproduct of the life cycle of the giant sandworms, but the exact mechanism is not fully understood. The Guild lives in constant, quiet fear that a war, an ecological disaster, a political revolution could interrupt the flow of spice. This terror gives them a very complex relationship with the planet. They must remain neutral, yet they cannot allow any power to gain true, total control over Arrakis. They need the spice to be harvested, but they fear the harvesting process itself, which is violent and unpredictable. They are haunted by the ecological question. What if the delicate balance of the sandworms, the sand, and the hidden life of the desert is broken? What if the spice simply stops? This is why the Guild takes such an interest in the native people of Arrakis, the Fremen. The Fremen live in the deep desert, they coexist with the sandworms, and they seem to understand the spice in a way no outsider does. The Guild quietly negotiates with the Fremen, paying them vast sums in secret, not for the spice itself, but for assurance. They are, in effect, bribing the Fremen not to destroy the spice cycle and to act as the Guild's eyes and ears, a guarantee against the ambitions of whatever great house is currently in charge. Arrakis is the Guild's lifeline, and they will pay any price to protect it. Chapter 16. The Guild and House Corrino. The political landscape of the Imperium is defined by a delicate three-part balance of power. There is the Spacing Guild, which controls travel. There is the Landsraad, the combined parliament of all the great houses, and then there is the Padishah Emperor, the ruler of the known universe, who at the time our story most often takes place, is Shaddam IV of House Corrino. The relationship between the Guild and the Emperor is one of mutual, distrustful dependence. The Emperor is the Guild's single largest and most important customer. He must move his legions of elite, fanatical soldiers, the Sardaukar, to enforce his will, put down rebellions, and maintain the imperial peace. These troop movements require a vast number of Highliners, and the Guild charges the Emperor a fortune for this service. This revenue is stable, reliable, and forms a significant portion of the Guild's income. The Guild, in turn, needs the Emperor to remain strong. The Emperor's power is what keeps the Landsraad from descending into total chaotic warfare, which would be bad for business. A stable Imperium is a profitable Imperium. However, the Guild is also the primary check on the Emperor's power. Shaddam IV is ambitious and cunning, but he's ultimately constrained by the Guild. He cannot launch a full-scale assault on a rival great house, for example, without the Guild's cooperation to transport his army. The Guild will always provide this service for a price, but their price can be political as well as financial. If they feel the Emperor is becoming too powerful, too destabilizing, they can quietly raise his transport fees, they can engineer scheduling delays for his fleets, they can use their economic leverage to subtly support his rivals, all while maintaining their perfect veneer of neutrality. The Emperor knows this. He resents the Guild for their arrogance and their power over him, but he cannot move against them. To do so would be to ground his own fleets and isolate his throne world of Kaitain. This creates a transactional, tense accommodation. The Emperor and the Guild are partners, but they are not friends. They are two ancient, powerful beasts, locked in an embrace, neither one willing to let the other go, and neither one fully trusting the other. The Guild defers to the Emperor in matters of state, and the Emperor defers to the Guild in all matters of space. This delicate balance keeps the Imperium stable. The Guild ensures no one, not even the Emperor, can ever achieve total, unchecked military dominance. Chapter 17. The Guild and House Atreides. Into this complex game of power, we now introduce House Atreides, pronounced Atreides. They are one of the most ancient and respected of the great houses, known for their honor, their loyalty, and their popular support among the Landsraad. For most of its history, the Guild has viewed House Atreides as a stable, reliable, and somewhat unremarkable client. They pay their transport fees on time, they govern their ancestral homeworld of Caladan with a fair hand, and they do not cause unnecessary trouble. They are, in short, good for business. However, this perception begins to change with the rise of Duke Leto Atreides. Duke Leto is a man of immense charisma and political skill. He has built a small but elite military force that rivals the Emperor's Sardaukar in its training and loyalty. More importantly, he has been winning a quiet political war in the Landsraad, gathering other houses to his banner, creating a voting bloc that frightens the Padishah Emperor, Shaddam IV. The Guild, with its unparalleled access to information, watches this ascent with careful, calculated interest. The Guild does not care if Duke Leto is good or just. They care that he is becoming a source of instability. His growing power is upsetting the delicate balance between the Emperor and the Landsraad. This friction is dangerous. When the Emperor then makes the shocking decision to give House Atreides control of the planet Arrakis, the Guild's interest becomes acute. Arrakis, as we know, is the Guild's lifeline. Placing this popular, powerful, and ambitious Duke in charge of the spice is a move fraught with peril. The Guild's Navigators, with their limited prescience, would have scanned the futures branching from this decision. They would have seen conflict, blood, and, most terrifyingly, a high probability of disruption to the spice flow. Their recalibration of risk would have been immediate. They would have noted the Atreides' honorable nature, but they would also have noted their naivete about the dangers of Arrakis. The Guild would, in its neutral way, prepare for the coming storm. They watch House Atreides not as an enemy, but as a critical variable that has suddenly become unpredictable. And in the Guild's universe, unpredictable is the most dangerous word there is. Chapter 18. The Guild and House Harkonnen. In stark contrast, to the noble Atreides stands their ancient rival, House Harkonnen, pronounced Harkonnen, led by the cruel, monstrously obese, and cunning Baron Vladimir Harkonnen. They are the shadow of the Imperium. Their power is built on fear, espionage, slavery, and brutal economic exploitation. For decades, it was House Harkonnen that held the governorship of Arrakis, a position they used to amass a staggering fortune by squeezing the spice harvest and terrorizing the population, all while secretly hoarding vast, illegal stockpiles of melange. The Guild's relationship with the Harkonnens is a perfect example of their cold, transactional neutrality. The Guild abhors the Baron's methods, not on moral grounds, but because they are wasteful and inefficient. The Harkonnens' brutality breeds rebellion, which leads to instability, which in turn endangers the spice flow. The Baron's habit of skimming profits and hoarding spice is a direct threat to the Guild's supply chain. They view the Baron as a messy, unreliable, and dangerous partner, and yet they deal with him. The Guild transports Harkonnen troops and their slaves. They carry Harkonnen spice to market. They manage Harkonnen wealth in the Guild Bank. They do this because the Harkonnens, for all their faults, are a major power and a major customer. The Guild's neutrality is strained here, not by morality, but by the sheer self-destructive volatility of the Harkonnen way. They profit from the Baron's cruelty, but they do not endorse it, and they quietly work to contain it. When the Emperor orders the Harkonnens to leave Arrakis and cede it to the Atreides, the Guild is part of the secret negotiation. They are the ones who transport the massive combined forces of the Harkonnens and the Emperor's own Sardaukar, disguised in Harkonnen uniforms, for the surprise attack on House Atreides. The Guild does this not out of loyalty to the Baron, but as part of a complex, stabilizing maneuver. They believe the Atreides are a long-term threat to stability, and that a quick, brutal removal, followed by the restoration of the known and manageable Harkonnen regime, is the safest path back to a stable spice flow. This is the Guild at its most ruthless. They are willing to profit from and participate in a genocidal assault, all to protect their supply of spice. Their neutrality is not passive. It is an active, amoral calculation of risk. Chapter 19. The Fremen and the unseen negotiation. While the great houses squabble over the governorship of Arrakis and the guild negotiates with the victors, there is a third unseen power on the desert planet. This power is the Fremen, the native inhabitants of the deep desert. For centuries, the Imperium, including the guild, has dismissed them as primitive, scattered, nomadic tribes. This is a profound and dangerous miscalculation. The Fremen are, in fact, a vast, organized, and powerful society, numbering in the millions, who have mastered the hostile environment of Arrakis. And, most importantly, they live in perfect symbiosis with the spice and the sandworms. The guild, with its deep information gathering networks, is one of the very few outside powers to have an inkling of the true nature of the Fremen. The guild's agents, operating in secret, have long maintained a quiet, transactional relationship with them. This is the unseen negotiation. The guild does not care about Fremen independence or their messianic religion. They care about two things. First, the Fremen live in the deep desert and are the only people who truly understand the sandworms. The guild fears that the Fremen, if angered, could find a way to destroy the worms or to poison the spice cycle forever. Second, the Fremen have been secretly harvesting and hoarding vast quantities of spice for generations. They use it in every aspect of their lives, in their food, their drink, their religious rites. Their eyes are the deep, total blue of the eyes of Ibad, a sign of saturation far beyond mere addiction. The guild, with its terror of a spice shortage, looks upon the Fremen as a potential secret reservoir. And so, the guild pays. They bribe the Fremen leaders, not with money, which is useless in the desert, but with technology, weapons, and most of all, water. They pay the Fremen to not interfere with the sandworms. They pay them for information, and they pay them for the right to maintain secret, safe bases in the desert, far from the prying eyes of House Harkonnen or Atreides. This secret alliance is one of the guild's most important long-term strategies. The Fremen, for their part, take the guild's bribes and use them to further their own much longer-term plan, to one day transform the ecology of Arrakis, to bring water to the desert. This Fremen dream is, in fact, the guild's worst possible nightmare, as water is lethally poisonous to the sandworms. This makes their negotiation a delicate, dangerous dance of mutual deception, with the fate of the universe hanging in the balance. Chapter 20. Mentats and Bene Gesserit as counterweights. In the universe shaped by the Butlerian Jihad, the Spacing Guild's Navigators are not the only form of human computer. Two other great schools arose to fill the void left by thinking machines, and they both serve as counterweights, and sometimes rivals, to the Guild's power. These are the Mentats and the Bene Gesserit sisterhood. They represent different paths of human development, different ways of processing reality. The Mentats are the human computers. They are individuals, almost always male, who are trained from childhood in the arts of logic, memory, and probabilistic calculation. A Mentat can absorb vast streams of data, and within moments provide a cold, logical analysis, projecting the most likely outcomes of a course of action. They are the strategists, the advisors, and the economists of the great houses. Where a guild navigator sees the future through the spice, a Mentat calculates the future through data. The guild respects Mentat abilities, but also sees them as limited. A Mentat can only calculate based on known information. They cannot see the unknown variable that a navigator's prescience can detect. The Bene Gesserit, pronounced Be-Ne-Je-Se-Rit, are a more subtle and, to the guild, more dangerous counterweight. The Sisterhood is an ancient school that trains its members, all female, in complete control over their own minds and bodies. Through a discipline known as Prana Bindu, they can control their own biochemistry, neutralize poisons, and detect the emotions and deceptions of others with perfect clarity. Their truthsayers can determine if a person is lying. But their greatest project is their breeding program, a secret, centuries-long effort to manipulate noble bloodlines to produce a superhuman, a male Bene Gesserit they call the Kwisatz Haderach, who would be able to see into the future. This directly encroaches on the guild's monopoly. The Bene Gesserit are actively trying to create a being who can do what a navigator does, but without the spice and without being a mutated prisoner in a tank. This makes the Sisterhood a profound existential threat to the Guild. The Guild watches the Bene Gesserit with extreme suspicion, tracking their breeding programs and their political machinations, wary of the day they might finally succeed. These three schools, the Guild's prescient navigation, the Mentat's cold logic, and the Bene Gesserit's genetic scheming, form a triangle of specialized human potential, each one balancing and checking the others, each one a different answer to the prohibition against thinking machines. Chapter 21, The Fragility of Foresight. The power of the Guild Navigator, their prescient sight, seems absolute. It is the bedrock of their monopoly. But this power is not perfect. It is, in its own way, fragile, and it has profound limitations. This fragility is a secret the Guild guards almost as closely as the existence of the Navigators themselves. To understand it, we must understand that prescience is not a simple, clear vision of the future. It is a vision of probabilities, and it can be clouded. The first and most important limitation is that a prescient being cannot see the actions of another prescient being. The future-seeing mind is a dark spot in the vision of another. When one navigator scans the future, the actions and decisions of other navigators, or of anyone else with a strong prescient ability, are a blur, a fog, a shadow in time that they cannot penetrate. This is a form of mutual blindness. This is why the Guild's navigators must coordinate to ensure their paths do not cross in the chaos of fold space. This also means that any other individual who develops the sight, a Bene Gesserit Reverend Mother, a spice-saturated Fremen, or, most terrifyingly, a figure like Paul Atreides becomes a black hole in the Guild's vision of the future. Their actions, and the futures that branch from them, become utterly unpredictable. This is the Guild's greatest fear, as it renders their navigation, their greatest asset, blind and useless in the very areas where it is needed most. An empire with multiple competing seers is one where no one can safely plot a course. There is another, more subtle fragility. Foresight can create traps. Once a navigator locks in a safe path, they have, in effect, committed to that single future. To deviate from it, even slightly, is to plunge back into the chaos of uncertainty. This means that prescience can be a prison. A navigator might see a future that is safe for their ship, but terrible in other ways. They might see the assassination of a political leader at their destination, but they are bound to the safe path they have chosen. This makes them appear passive, fatalistic. They are locked onto the rails of the future they have seen, unable to change it for fear of destroying themselves. This overconfidence in a single vision, this reliance on a safe path, is the great tragic flaw of foresight. It can blind the seer to other, better possibilities, and it can make them utterly vulnerable to anyone who is willing to create a new, unforeseen future. Chapter 22, Case Study in Leverage. Let us now restfully consider a quiet, narrative example of how the Guild wields its power. Imagine a small but wealthy great house. Let us call them House Opal. House Opal rules a planet rich in rare gems. They have a minor dispute with a much larger, more powerful neighbor, House Granite. House Granite is a key ally of the Emperor and has a massive military. House Opal has no hope of winning a direct conflict. The dispute is over a small contested moon, and House Granite decides to simply annex it. They begin to mobilize their legions for a police action. House Opal, facing ruin, sends a desperate secret message to the Spacing Guild representative. They do not ask the Guild to fight for them. They do not ask for weapons. They make a simple but profound business offer. They offer the Guild a 50% share in all gem mining on their planet forever, in exchange for scheduling considerations. The Guild, seeing a massive long-term profit, quietly accepts. Now, when House Granite contacts the Guild to book passage for their 3 massive troop transports, the Guild representative is apologetic. A terrible, unforeseen scheduling conflict, he might say. 2 of your transports are booked for a vital grain shipment to the capital. We can, however, move your 3rd transport immediately. The other 2, we can fit them in, perhaps, in 6 months. House Granite protests they threaten, but the Guild agent simply shrugs. Our schedules are set far in advance. We cannot disappoint the Emperor's homeworld by delaying their food, can we? At the same time, the Guild offers House Opal, their new business partner, priority access to several Highliners. House Opal uses this to quietly move all of their accumulated wealth, their families, and their best technicians off-world to a secret new colony. By the time House Granite can finally move its full invasion force, 6 months later, the planet is an empty shell. The mines are stripped, the factories dark. They have conquered a worthless piece of rock, all at an enormous military cost, and they have gained nothing. House Opal is safe, and the Guild is now a 50% owner of their new, secret, and fabulously wealthy mining operation. No shots were fired by the Guild. No neutrality was technically broken. They simply used their control over access and timing to nudge a political outcome, all while turning a massive profit. This is the Guild's way. Chapter 23, Smugglers, Pirates, and Insurance. The Guild's monopoly on transport is absolute, but the void is vast, and where there is monopoly, there is always a gray economy. The most common figures in this economy are the smugglers. Smugglers are a constant, low-level annoyance to the Guild and its CHOAM partners. They operate small, fast ships, often modified and illegal, designed to run planetary blockades, not to fold space. They cannot compete with the Highliners for bulk cargo, so they specialize in small, high-value, and usually illegal goods, forbidden technologies, narcotics, or most commonly, untaxed spice. The Guild's relationship with smugglers is complex. On the one hand, smugglers, particularly spice smugglers, are a threat. They bypass the CHOAM taxation system and cut into the profits of the official spice harvest. But on the other hand, the Guild often finds them useful. Smugglers create new markets, they gather information from the fringes of the Imperium, and they are a deniable source of off-the-books spice. The Guild quietly allows a certain level of smuggling to exist, as long as it does not become too large or too brazen. Pirates are a different and more serious matter. These are not just smugglers. They are predators who attack shipping within a star system, preying on freighters after they have left the safety of a Highliner, but before they have reached the planet's surface. Piracy is a direct disruption of trade, and the Guild takes it very seriously. While the Guild will not police a system that is the job of the local house, they will use their economic power to solve the problem. This is where Guild insurance comes in. The Guild insures the valuable cargo that travels on its Highliners. If a particular star system becomes too dangerous, if piracy becomes too common, the Guild will simply raise the insurance premiums for all cargo destined for that system. They will raise them to such a crippling, astronomical level that no one can afford to trade there. CHOAM contracts dry up, the planet's economy collapses. This forces the local great house to ruthlessly hunt down and destroy the pirates, just to get the Guild to lower its rates. Once again, the Guild uses financial pressure, not weapons, to impose its will and maintain order. Chapter 24, Technologies around the Navigator. The Navigator, floating in their tank, is the living heart of the Guild, but they are supported by a vast, complex, and subtle web of technology. This technology is not flashy or warlike. It is the technology of life support, information filtering, and sensory deprivation. The Navigator's tank is the supreme example of this. It is not just a container, it is a womb, a mobile life support system perfected over millennia. The tank's primary function is to manage the spice gas. It must maintain the precise, lethal concentration of melange, warming it, circulating it, and filtering the byproducts of the Navigator's own respiration. This is a delicate, closed-loop system. Any failure in this system, any variance in the gas mixture, could cause the Navigator to fall out of their trance, or, in a catastrophic failure, to suffer withdrawal and die. This is why Guild technicians are among the best trained and most trusted individuals in the Imperium. The tank also serves as the Navigator's interface with the Highliner. It is studded with ports and connections, but these are not for piloting, they are for information. The tank feeds the Navigator the ship's status, its mass, its energy levels, and, most importantly, the destination coordinates. The tank also receives the Navigator's commands, which are not spoken, but are perceived as subtle energy shifts or neural impulses. The Navigator thinks the safe path, and the tank's systems translate that thought into the data the ship's mechanical engines need to initiate the fold space jump. The environment around the tank is just as important. The Navigator's sanctum, the bridge of the Highliner, is a place of absolute, enforced calm. It is a low-stimulus environment. The lighting is dim, the air is still. The technicians who serve there move slowly, speak in whispers, and communicate through hand signals. This is because the Navigator, deep in their trance, is exquisitely sensitive. A loud noise, a bright flash of light, a sudden jolt, any of these could shatter their concentration at a critical moment, breaking their hold on the safe path and dooming the ship. This surrounding technology, the tank, the interfaces, the life support, the quiet room, is all designed for one purpose: to protect the Navigator's mind. It is a shell, a cocoon, that allows their fragile, powerful consciousness to perform its impossible task, floating in a perfect, orange, and silent sea. Chapter 25, Ethics of Monopoly. As we drift deeper into our understanding of the Guild, we must gently consider the moral and ethical costs of their system. The Guild's monopoly on travel is the bedrock of civilization, but it is a power that comes at a profound price, paid by both the universe and the Navigators themselves. The Guild is the ultimate gatekeeper. They decide who moves, who trades, who lives, and who dies, all based on a cold economic calculation. The existence of a single, unassailable monopoly on a service as fundamental as travel creates a deep systemic imbalance. It makes true freedom impossible. The great houses may have political power on their worlds, but they are all in effect tenants in the Guild's empire. Their ambition is checked, their wars are refereed, and their economies are controlled by a single, unaccountable external force. This breeds a deep, galaxy-wide resentment, a simmering anger that is kept in check only by the sheer, desperate need for the Guild's services. The Guild's peace is a cold, enforced, and fragile one. Then there is the human cost, the price paid by the Navigators. To create a Navigator, the Guild takes a human being, often a child, and deliberately mutates them. It hooks them on a powerful addictive drug, and then seals them in a sensory deprivation tank for the rest of their centuries-long life. The Navigators are, in the most literal sense, a slave race. They are slaves to their addiction, slaves to their tanks, and slaves to the Guild's unending demand for safe passage. They are given a godlike power, the ability to see the future, but they are robbed of all the simple, human things that make a life worth living. They cannot walk, they cannot touch, they cannot breathe fresh air, they cannot form normal human relationships. They are tragic, isolated figures, living sacrifices offered up to the god of interstellar travel. The Guild's entire structure is built upon this profound and quietly accepted ethical horror. This is the dark, hidden engine at the heart of the Imperium. The civilization's need for movement is so great that it is willing to trade both its freedom and its humanity to get it. Chapter 26, Paul Atreides and the Crisis of Sight. For thousands of years, the Spacing Guild has managed its monopoly perfectly. Its navigators, with their unique prescience, have been the only seers in a blind universe. This comfortable, stable arrangement is shattered by the arrival of one person, Paul Atreides. Paul is the heir of House Atreides, but he's also something more. He is the unintended and unexpectedly male product of the Bene Gesserit breeding program. He is the Kwisatz Haderach, the one who can be in many places at once. And when he comes to Arrakis, the planet of the spice, his latent powers explode. Paul Atreides develops prescience. His sight, amplified by the spice and by his unique genetic heritage, is not just the equal of a guild navigator's. It is vastly, terrifyingly superior. Where a navigator must dive deep into a trance to find a single, safe path, Paul can see the entire complex web of the future, the golden path of humanity's survival. He does not just see the future, he can control it. He becomes an active, willful force, a storm, in the Sea of Time. To the Spacing Guild, this is an existential crisis. As we have discussed, one prescient being cannot see another. Suddenly, Paul Atreides and the entire planet of Arrakis, which he comes to control, becomes a dark spot in the Navigator's vision. They cannot see him, they cannot predict his actions, and since he now controls the source of the spice, he holds a knife to the Guild's throat. He has broken their monopoly on foresight, and he has seized their lifeline. This is the Guild's greatest nightmare come to life. Their encounter with Paul Atreides after he has become the Fremen Messiah is one of abject terror. The Guild Navigator, sent to negotiate with him, is confronted by a being who sees more than he does, who knows his secrets, and who can, with a single thought, destroy the Guild forever, simply by destroying all the spice on Arrakis. The Guild, for the first time in its history, is forced to bow. Its neutrality is shattered, its power is broken. Paul Atreides represents the ultimate unpredictable variable, the rogue seer, who brings the Guild's entire carefully constructed system crashing down. Their reliance on a single, fragile form of foresight is revealed as their greatest weakness. Chapter 27, The Jihad and the Arithmetic of Loss. The rise of Paul Atreides, or Paul Muad'Dib as he is known to his Fremen followers, unleashes a holy war, a jihad that sweeps across the stars. His fanatical Fremen legions, fueled by messianic fervor, pour out from Arrakis to conquer the Imperium in his name. This period of immense galaxy-spanning conflict presents the Spacing Guild with a new and terrible set of calculations: the arithmetic of loss and of profit. The Guild is, for a time, subjugated by Paul. He forces them to transport his armies, breaking their long-held neutrality. But as his empire solidifies and his own strange, divine transformation begins, his grip on the Guild loosens, and they return to their old transactional ways. A galaxy at war, it turns out, is fabulously profitable. Every house, every faction, every rebellious world needs to move troops, weapons, and supplies. And the Guild is still the only way to move them. The Guild's navigators, now carefully avoiding the dark spots in time around Paul himself, go back to business. They charge war premiums. The price of a Highliner transport soars to unprecedented heights. The risk is greater, as many destinations are active war zones, but the rewards are astronomical. The Guild bank swells with the profits of conflict. The Guild transports the Fremen legions to a planet, and then, for a different price, transports the refugees fleeing that same planet. This is a dark, cynical arithmetic of loss. The Guild's agents calculate the exact price of moving a legion, weighing it against the insurance cost of the potential loss of a Highliner. They profit from the destruction, all while remaining, at least on paper, neutral observers. They are the ultimate war profiteers, the arms dealers of logistics, feeding on the very chaos that Paul Atreides has unleashed. This period reshapes the Guild. It hardens them. It floods their coffers with unprecedented wealth, but it also reinforces their deep-seated fear of prescient rivals. They learn that their monopoly is not, in fact, unassailable, and they begin to search, in secret, for any way to free themselves from their dependency on the spice and on the whims of godlike seers. Chapter 28, Leto II and the Long Game. After the brief, violent reign of Paul Muad'Dib, his son Leto II ascends to the Imperial throne. And here, the Guild's relationship with power changes again, profoundly and forever. Leto II is not like his father. He, too, is a Kwisatz Haderach, but he makes a different choice. To save humanity from stagnation and ultimate extinction, a future he has seen in his own prescient visions, he embarks on the Golden Path. He merges his body with the sandworm, the source of the spice, beginning a slow, terrible 3,500-year transformation into a monstrous, godlike sandworm emperor. For the Spacing Guild, this is a new and terrible kind of stability. The terror of a rogue seer, like Paul, is gone. In his place is a single, all-powerful, all-seeing god emperor, who is the spice. Leto II now has absolute control over the spice. He doles it out in small, carefully measured amounts, just enough to keep the guild functioning, but never enough for them to be comfortable. He has, in effect, put the entire guild on a leash. For 3.5 millennia, the guild exists in the state of enforced peace. They are still the only way to travel, but their political power is gone. They are no longer a neutral balancing force. They are a subjugated utility, a tool of the God Emperor's golden path. Their navigators, still floating in their tanks, still laying their safe courses, do so with the full knowledge that their every move is seen, anticipated, and controlled by the prescient mind of Leto II. They are cogs in his vast continental scale machine. This long, slow, suffocating period of Leto's peace changes the guild's character. It makes them even more secretive, more turned inward. They hoard every drop of spice they are given. Their navigators, starved of the overwhelming doses they once had, become less powerful. Their visions dimmer. They are forced to take more, smaller hops through fold space. Their long-range sight diminished. They dream of a day when the tyrant will be gone, but they are also terrified of it, because his peace, however terrible, is also stable. Under Leto II, the guild learns a new kind of patience. They learn to survive, to endure, and to wait, playing a long game that lasts for thousands of years. Chapter 29. Ix, Tleilaxu, and Pressure on the Cartel. During the long, repressive peace of the God Emperor Leto II, the guild was not the only power that was being suffocated. Two other stranger forces were also being held in check, the planets of Ix and Tleilax. The Ixians are the masters of technology. They are the only society that walks the razor's edge of the Butlerian Jihad's prohibitions, creating complex machines that are almost, but not quite, thinking machines. The Bene Tleilax, or Tleilaxu, pronounced Tleilaxu, are the masters of biotechnology. They are amoral genetic manipulators, capable of growing clones, altered humans, and golas, which are clones grown from the cells of the dead. Both of these powers represent a profound, long-term threat to the guild's monopoly. The Ixians are a threat because they are always secretly, quietly, trying to replace the guild navigator. They are experimenting with navigation machines, attempting to create a computer that could safely plot a course through fold space. If they ever succeeded, the guild's monopoly would be broken overnight. The navigators would become obsolete. The guild watches Ix with paranoid suspicion, using its influence to sabotage their research whenever it can. The Tleilaxu are a different kind of threat. They offer the possibility of creating spice. For millennia, the Tleilaxu have been trying to grow synthetic melange in their axolotl tanks, which are, in fact, living brain-dead females used as biological factories. Their goal is to break the monopoly of Arrakis, and thus break the power of anyone who controls it, whether it be the Emperor, the Atreides, or the Guild. When Leto II finally dies, and his long peace shatters, these two powers are unleashed. The Ixians immediately begin to market their new navigation devices to anyone who will buy them. The Tleilaxu, after thousands of years of failure, finally succeed in producing a reliable synthetic spice. This is the ultimate crisis for the Spacing Guild. Their cartel is under attack from two directions. Technology threatens to replace their navigators, and biotechnology threatens to make their precious spice worthless. This pressure forces the guild to adapt or die. They are no longer the only game in town. They must now compete, lowering their prices and fighting for their survival. Chapter 30. Famine, Shortage, and Synthetic Dreams. The death of the God Emperor, Leto II, shatters the Imperium. But his death also has a terrible ecological consequence. His golden path ends with his sandworm body disintegrating, an act that scatters his sand trout, the larval form of the sandworm, back into the ecosystem of Arrakis, now a wet, green world. This act is intended to restart the spice cycle, but for a long, terrible time, it fails. The universe is plunged into the Great Spice Famine. For the Spacing Guild, this is the apocalypse they have feared for millennia. The spice flow does not just dwindle, it stops. Their carefully hoarded reserves begin to run out. Navigators, their lives dependent on the orange gas, begin to die. The guild is in a state of absolute panic. They are desperate. This is the moment when the Bene Tleilax make their move. They come to the guild with an offer, their new synthetic melange. The guild is suspicious. Their navigators test the synthetic spice and find it lacking. It works, barely. It keeps them alive. It allows them to form a link with the new Ixian navigation machines, which they are now forced to adopt. But it does not grant them the true, deep prescience of the original Arrakis spice. Their sight is gone, replaced by reliance on a machine. The navigators become little more than living batteries, biological processors that interface with the Ixian computers. This is a time of profound humiliation and loss for the guild. They are no longer the masters of the void. They are junkies, kept alive by a synthetic dream, tethered to a machine they despise. They cling to power, but their monopoly is shattered. They are now just one of several options for travel. The Ixians sell their navigation devices to anyone, and no ships are created, vessels that are invisible to prescience, flying routes plotted by computers. The guild's long-held terror of a spice shortage has come true, and it has broken them. They are forced to dream of the old spice, the true spice, and to search the scattered universe for any sign that the sandworms and their power might one day return. Chapter 31, The Scattering and New Horizons. The death of the God Emperor and the Great Spice Famine did not just break the old Imperium, it scattered it. Billions of people, fleeing the chaos, the repression of Leto's peace, and the subsequent wars, fled into the deep, uncharted regions of space. This vast, galaxy-wide migration is known as the Scattering. For the first time in millennia, humanity was expanding again, moving beyond the known universe that the guild had so carefully mapped and controlled. This presents the humbled, weakened Spacing Guild with a new, unexpected opportunity. The Ixians may have navigation machines, and the Tleilaxu may have synthetic spice. But the guild still has one thing no one else does: millennia of experience. They are still the masters of logistics, the owners of the great Highliners, and the most trusted name in transport. And their navigators, though diminished, are still useful. Their biological feel for fold space, often more reliable than the cold calculations of an Ixian machine, especially in unknown territory. The guild follows the scattering. They become the ferrymen for the Great Migration, transporting colonists and adventurers to new, unknown worlds. This is a humbler guild. They no longer dictate terms to emperors. They are a commercial enterprise, competing in an open market. They must negotiate contracts, lower their prices, and prove their value against their new rivals. This new era forces the guild to adapt. They become more flexible, more curious. Their ships push out beyond the familiar maps, discovering new routes, new civilizations, new dangers. The unknown vectors of deep space become their new frontier. This new role, in a way, revitalizes them. They are no longer the stagnant, paranoid gatekeepers of a closed system. They are explorers once more, returning, in a sense, to the pioneering spirit of their earliest ancestors. The scattering breaks the guild's old power, but it also saves them from obsolescence, giving them a new purpose in a vast new universe, a universe that is no longer held in the grip of a single, terrible, all-seeing eye. Chapter 32, The Inner Lives of Navigators. In our final exploration of the Navigators themselves, let us set aside the politics and the technology and restfully consider their inner lives. For millennia, these beings have lived in a state of profound sensory solitude. Sealed in their tanks, they are islands of consciousness, floating in an orange sea. And yet, they are not entirely alone. The guild, in its ancient wisdom, understands the need for community, even for these post-human beings. Navigators are able to communicate with one another. Their tanks can be linked, their spice trances merged, allowing them to share thoughts, experiences, and visions directly, mind to mind. A senior navigator, a steersman, does not just talk to his apprentices. He shares his perception of the fold space path with them, allowing them to feel his journey. This creates a deep telepathic bond, a silent community of seers who are the only ones in the universe who can truly understand one another. They are beings of immense memory. Living for centuries, their minds, amplified by the spice, become living libraries. They remember trade routes that have been dead for 1,000 years. They remember the faces of emperors long since turned to dust. They are the oral historians of the Imperium, holding the deep, secret patterns of history in their consciousness. This great memory is both a gift and a burden, a long, quiet river of time that flows through them. There's a soft dignity in their service. They know what they have sacrificed. They understand that their monstrous forms and their imprisoned lives are the price for human civilization. There is a quiet religious fervor to their order, a belief in the sacredness of the safe path. They are monks of probability, dedicating their long, strange lives to a single vital task. They may be prisoners, they may be addicts, but they are also, in their own way, heroes, the lonely, sleepless sentinels who guard the passages of the void. Their inner life is one of quiet contemplation, of immense responsibility, and of a unique shared community, hidden from the human universe they serve, and bound together by the orange gas that is their air, their life, and their holy vision. Chapter 33, Symbols, Rites, and the Guild's Invisible Culture. Every great organization is bound by more than just rules. It is held together by a shared culture, by symbols and quiet traditions. The Spacing Guild, the most secretive of all, is no exception. Its culture is invisible to outsiders, a set of rites and understandings that reinforce its internal unity and its separation from the rest of the Imperium. These traditions are designed to elevate their work from a simple job to a sacred calling, a mystery in the old sense of the word. The Guild's primary symbol, seen only on its most secure documents and on the sanctums of its navigators, is a representation of a folded or knotted line, representing a ship's path through fold space. It is a symbol of their power, a knot in reality that only they can tie and only they can unravel. This symbol is a reminder to all Guild members that their work is not just transport, but the mastery of a fundamental cosmic secret. There are quiet rites that all Guild agents must observe. The most important is the rite of passage, a set of coded phrases and gestures used when boarding or disembarking a Highliner. This serves as a mutual identification, a quiet way for Guild members to recognize one another and to affirm the neutral ground of the ship. There are also the rites of the tank, the hushed, careful procedures for maintaining the Navigator's sanctum, a process that is treated with the reverence of a religious ceremony. The Guild's invisible culture is built on a foundation of quiet, supreme confidence. Guild agents are trained to be polite, impassive, and implacable. They never raise their voice. They never threaten. They simply state the facts of a situation: the price, the schedule, the availability. This calm, unshakable demeanor is itself a weapon. It projects an aura of inevitable, absolute power, frustrating the ambitions of angry nobles and arrogant emperors. It is a culture of no, a quiet, soft, and unbreachable wall of administrative denial that is more powerful than any fortress. These symbols, these rites, and this shared invisible culture are what bind the Guild. They are the soft connective tissue that holds the vast, scattered, and secret organization together as a single, unified, and purposeful family. Chapter 34. What truly moves the stars. Our journey through the quiet halls of the Spacing Guild is nearing its end. We have seen how this vast, secret organization was born from the ashes of a holy war. We have seen how it is built upon a single, fragile chain of dependencies. The planet, which creates the sandworm, which creates the spice, which creates the navigator, which creates the safe path, which allows the Highliner to move. This is the great ecological, biological, and economic engine that drives the Imperium. What truly moves the stars, then, is not the Holtzman engine. It is not the will of the Emperor or the armies of the great houses. It is this delicate, interlocking system. The Guild's true power lies in its understanding of this system and its position as the gatekeeper at its most critical point. They have translated this understanding into a pure, cold, and perfect economic and political power. They are the masters of the Fulcrum, the one small point upon which the entire lever of the universe rests. The Guild is a metaphor for the unseen systems that govern our own lives. It is the power of logistics, the power of information, the power of finance, and the power of a cartel. They are the quiet, invisible architecture of civilization. They remind us that the greatest power is not always the one that is loudest or the one that wields the most obvious weapons. Often, the greatest power is the one that simply controls the how, the when, and the if of movement. The Guild is the ultimate middleman, standing between every seller and every buyer, between every army and every battlefield, between every pilgrim and every shrine. And in that quiet, neutral, transactional space, they have found a power greater than any throne. They are the silent, ever-present, and inescapable current that pulls all things toward their inevitable destinations. Conclusion. A quiet return to harbor. We have traveled far tonight, drifting through the hidden, orange-scented corridors of the Spacing Guild. We have uncovered their deepest secrets, the metamorphosis of their navigators, the cold logic of their neutrality, and their profound, terrifying dependence on the spice of Arrakis. We have seen how their monopoly on movement is a power greater than armies, a quiet leverage that shapes empires, starts and ends wars, and dictates the flow of all wealth. They are the great, silent, and stable constant in a universe of chaos. What we have found is not a story of heroes or villains, but a story of a system born of ancient fears, built on a biological miracle, and maintained by a cold, transactional logic. The Guild is the quiet, humming engine of civilization, a force as fundamental and as unseen as gravity itself. And its navigators, those lonely, mutated, and tragic seers, are the living hearts of that machine, sacrificing their humanity so that humanity itself might remain connected. As we now let these thoughts settle, we can appreciate the silent, immense, and invisible structures that hold the universe together. You now understand the Spacing Guild. Their mysteries are laid bare, their power understood. There is no more to learn tonight. There is only the quiet, steady, and peaceful knowledge that you've gained. Let the complexities fade and allow your mind to return to harbor, to a place of perfect, safe, and well-deserved rest. Good night.